Eddie, in front of me, I've got some of the most searched questions about Eddie Hearn on the internet. You worried about this?
No, I'm more intrigued, actually. Yeah. Go on, say.
We're going to ask you to answer them now.
Okay.
So first one, why is Eddie Hearn famous?
Okay. Well, that's the new one, probably because of No Context Hearn.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. So what do I have to answer these, do I?
You do have to answer them, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what people are searching about you. So people want to know, why is Eddie Hearn famous?
Probably because I'm always in camera shot.
Right.
So it's like, who is this guy and what does he do? So if you follow boxing, you know what I do.
Yeah.
And if you're just tuning in for boxing for the first time, you're probably wondering, who's that guy who's always in the camera shot? Running into the ring, making a fool of himself, hugging fighters. And then obviously with this No Context Hearn thing, which is just launched, I think that's probably why that's gone to the top, because people are like, who is this guy? Oh, that's Eddie Hearn. Who is Eddie Hearn? What does he do? So what do? I'm a boxing promoter, a sports promoter. I'm a salesman. I guess that's the best way to describe me.
I read an interesting article that you said that a lot of people now recognise you from Out of Context Hearn more than actually the boxing promoter. People come up to you in supermarkets and say, you're that guy.
From the internet.
Does that happen regularly?
It does now, worryingly. I mean, like if I'm getting the train or the tube somewhere and people sit down and say, oh, you're Eddie Hearn, you know, and they'll know me from boxing. So they'll say, do you think AJ's going to win a rematch? Or, no, when's Dillian White going to fight for the world title? Now it's more, oh, you're that guy. Do that thing you do, you know, with the what? Go and do it. No, seriously, don't do it. No. So that's really what I've got to contend with. So,
and do you do it when people ask you to do that?
Actually.
You do?
I do, because I just want to just crack on and get out there. It's either that or the Eubank Senior impersonation. Yeah. You know, one of the two they asked me to do, and I do it. I can't say no. How do you say no?
It's like all the time.
Because someone goes, what a miserable guy. I only just wanted him to say, oh, go on then. You know, and he wouldn't even do it. And I guess, you know, that's now my comedy act, so.
Do you mind about that?
No, I don't. The guy actually sent me a direct message who's running the account saying, look, I hope you're not offended by this. I was like, no, I think he's hilarious. But I've noticed it so much in the last, it's only been launched, I don't know, like 2 months.
It's fairly recent, isn't it? Yeah.
And I've noticed it a lot, people looking at me really strangely, like as if to go, that's the guy from the memes, you know, from the GIFs. So that's why that's in there, because I think people are seeing these and using them, but without having a clue who I am.
Brilliant.
So I don't know.
You mentioned impressions there as well. I think we might come on to that a little bit later on, just to pre-warn you about that. Next question, how tall is Eddie Hearn? Yeah. This is what people want to know.
Do you know how many people come up to me and say, and it's so funny, like, it's like you're not human, you don't exist. People come and say, oh, you're a lot taller you are than I imagined, like poking me, you know. So I'm 6'5".
6'5"?
Yeah, but the reason that people say that to me is because when I'm with AJ, he makes me look like a dwarf, and I'm 6'5". So
there we go. So now people know they can stop searching. You are 6'5". Next one, of course, why we're here. Why is Eddie Hearn promoting KSI versus Logan Paul? Okay,
I'm promoting it because I can't ignore it. The first one came around, and I was asked to do it, and I said no way, no. 2 YouTubers, head guards, big gloves. Asked where it was, Manchester Arena, I started laughing. Then they said it was on pay-per-view, I started laughing. And then I soon found out it sold out, Manchester Arena. Did 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, and I thought it was the greatest idea since sliced bread.
Was that the turning point, literally? You saw the numbers?
I just thought you can't ignore it. I mean, I'm young in terms of the boxing promotion world, but I'm probably quite old in terms of, you know, the new digital age and the way people are digesting content. These guys are incredible. I mean, they're salesmen, they're entertainers, they're part-time sportsmen, they're part-time technology geniuses. They fascinate me with the fan base that they've built. And the response has been very indifferent. You know, obviously from their fans, there's pandemonium. From the boxing world, it's, oh, you know, and some fighters might say, well, I've trained all my life, you know, and I never got to headline the Staples Center on pay-per-view and earn millions of dollars. Yeah, but you weren't good enough. Or you didn't build a fan base that was big enough. It is, because you know, we're about numbers. Now, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We're doing this interview now. You're hoping that I'm going to do an impression later that's going to get you loads of numbers.
I'm very much hoping that very shortly I'm asking you more than one
impression. And that is why I'll give it to you. Right? Thank you. So, but that's the world we live in, isn't it? Unless we produce numbers, unless we do business, it's not going to be around. So boxing is my passion. Boxing is what I love. But you can't, if you just want to just remain where you are or not build a new fan base, you're going to grow. If you don't drive a new audience to the sport and the audience doesn't grow, the sport will die. So what we're trying to do here is, quite frankly, steal a new audience. You know, I'm putting this event on, the numbers are going to be huge, and I'm hoping they enjoy it. I'm hoping they follow these guys training. They want to start participating in boxing. They want to start following boxing. They watch Billy Joe Saunders and Devin Haney and say, oh, I like these guys. All of a sudden, I mean, they're seeing it, I'm seeing it. The social numbers, the following, going up daily, like even the fighters that are on the card. So we've got to try and almost hijack these casual fans and turn them into boxing fans, and that's how you grow the audience.
You've promoted some of the biggest fights all around the world. How does the build-up to this compare? Because it's a very unique event. You mentioned that you've got professional fighters on the undercard, you've got a huge YouTube event as the main event. How does the build-up for this compare to some of the biggest events you've been involved in?
Well, the numbers are much bigger, you know, in terms of, you know, the viewerships of interviews and live streams, and I think it's a really fascinating mix here of the pro and this other world where, you know, I was just reading my Instagram before I came in here, and me and Billy Joe Saunders and KSI just did this TMZ filming in LA. Some guy's like, can you imagine being Billy Joe Saunders sat there next to KSI just cringing? Not really. He's actually quite fascinated with how on earth has this guy got himself in this position. And he's also hoping that those fans come on the Billy Joe Saunders bandwagon. So it's really unique in that, like last night at Venice Beach, we had the workout, and you had Billy Joe Saunders and then Devin Haney, who are probably two of the best fighters in the world, doing their workout. And then you had KSI, Logan Paul. So these guys are like skipping rope and shadow boxing. Obviously, they're not as good as Billy Joe Saunders and Devin Haney. I think you just have to be honest about it and say, on Saturday, away from Saunders and Haney, you're not going to see Sugar Ray Leonard against Marvin Hagler. You're going to see two entertainers really exposed into this world of boxing, this almost gladiatorial arena in Los Angeles, where they will go in and be completely outside of their comfort zone and do something that's quite scary, quite dangerous, but something they've really trained hard to do and focused their mind on for a long time. They've taken it really, really seriously. They've built decent teams, but they're not fighters. You know, you're not going to see a boxing clinic. You're going to see something really entertaining where two guys are going to go in with a game plan, and probably it will all unfold in front of them and spiral out of control, and it'll be wild. And
you expect a knockout? I've listened to a lot of what you've done in the build-up, and you're certain there'll be a knockout. Is that because of the no head guards, the smaller gloves?
And I said,
big factor for you.
You know, the first fight wasn't sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control, and I said to him, if we're going to do this fight, and I'm going to be involved, you've got to turn professional. What does that mean? You've got to pass medicals, you've got to be reviewed if you like, you've got to have drug testing in place, and I don't want head guards or bigger gloves. It makes it a lot more dangerous, but really it's more about hurting the opponent and the effects that those gloves will have. You can't take the shots those guys took in the first fight in this scenario with no head guards and smaller gloves, and they will get a shock. You know, I saw Logan Paul put his gloves on, his 10-ounce glove, and he sort of went...
For the first time,
Yeah, and he sort of looked at it and he went, is that the one I'm using? And I went, yeah, and he said, but I could see him looking at it, not thinking, whoa, that's really going to hurt someone, thinking, that's really going to hurt me.
If I get hit,
exactly. So it's a different game. It's a different game. You know, you go from, like I said, the head guards and bigger gloves to small 10-ounce gloves, and they won't be able to absorb the shots they absorbed in the first fight over 6 rounds, and I do not believe it will go 6 rounds.
Okay. Next up, is Eddie Hearn half Mexican? So this is what people are searching. You see, we go straight from KSI Logan to people asking if you're half Mexican.
Yeah.
Are you half Mexican?
No. I like it though. Yeah. There's the no context Hearn going around, which is Arriba. There's a new one.
I think that might be where it's come from.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. No, I'm definitely not.
That's your favourite one so far, I think, isn't it?
No, my dad's from Dagenham and mum's from West Ham, so I don't think there's any Mexican.
No Mexican at all. Right, we can move straight on to the one that I have been waiting for. Does Eddie Hearn do impressions?
Yes. Well, not for a living, but I do. I sort of go into, when I'm telling a story, I don't actively try and do an impression, but a lot of the stuff is with Cook and Cassius, and you know, I'll say, and so-and-so said to me, and then I just go into their voice, you know.
I've heard you do Chris Eubanks senior.
Yeah, I mean, that's more because I've grown up around him, and that was really in the negotiations with his son, you know, to do a fight. So, and I've known him since I was 8, and he still looks at me as like an 8-year-old. And he will, you know, he will always say, but Edward, you do not understand. You have never stepped through the ropes. You are not a warrior. I'm like, no, I know, Chris, I've never boxed before. So You cannot understand the man that my son is. He is a warrior, unlike you. You are not a warrior. You know,
and if Kell Brook was in the room,
Kell Brook,
with
he'd
you
be
and
like,
Fisher, what would he say?
we'd be talking about the Amir Khan fight.
Yeah, of course.
You know, Eddie, I'm ready, baby. I'm ready to knock out this guy Khan, you know. Big right hand chocolate brownie down pipe, you know, and then I tell stories like going to like Bob Arum, you know.
Right.
And Eddie Hearn, he comes over here, he thinks he can dominate the game. He's a clown. He's a clown. Which kind of morphs into like, is it Mickey out of Rocky Balboa? It's more like
Mickey,
him. You're gonna win, Rock. You know that one. So, but the Eubank one, the Eubank one is the one that, you know, I've known him all my life virtually. So, but again, when I tell the story, I go into that mode. So, I do impressions, but not always intentionally to be.
I haven't heard you do impressions of KSI or Logan Paul yet. Can you give it a go?
KSI, not really.
No.
Logan Paul. I love Logan Paul. If you watch the 40 Days documentary, it's like, you think you know me? I've lived my life for a camera, but you don't know me. You don't know what goes through my mind. I mean, these guys, like, they're top actors, you know? And there's loads more, but I'll stop there.
Brilliant.
I'll
love
lose all credibility.
Brilliant. Okay, next one. Who does Eddie Hearn support?
Good question. Good question. So, I used to be a Spurs supporter.
Did you?
I used to be a Spurs. I mean, you know, and it's a funny story. Someone owed my dad some money.
Right.
And he wouldn't pay him. But he said, what I'll do is I'll give you my 4 season tickets to Spurs. So I started going.
You'd rather the money,
yeah, exactly. Well, at the time, you know, I didn't get the money, so I think it was a bit of a result for me. It was a great days. It was Klinsmann, you know, Sheringham, the end of Gascoigne,
Anderton,
Darren Anderson. I mean,
Ian
Justin
Walker
Edinburgh, rest in peace. You know, who was at Orient,
of course was,
Dean Austin, Popescu, Tors Vector at the end. Yeah. And so I was probably going, well, virtually most games for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I think we got on for 2 years, and then I ended up buying another one after that.
Right.
And then we bought Leyton Orient soon after, and that sort of took over my heart for a huge period of time, and we were there for over 15 years. And we had some amazing days. I mean, it is the worst business in the world. The only business when you sit down and, you know, you have a board meeting, you say, right, we're going to lose £1 million this year, but let's not lose any more than that.
Right, wow.
And you've still got fans
telling
you to put your hand in your pocket and sort it out. And it's a really frustrating, because sometimes the fans don't realise what the club meant to our family. You know, if we lost, it was like ruins our weekend. If we won, we'd have a great Sunday roast. And we had some great experiences at Leyton Orient. I mean, getting promoted at Oxford goes down as one of the best days of my life.
Next one. Is Eddie Hearn mates with Anthony Joshua?
Okay. Well, probably. Well, we are. Yeah, I hope. But I guess that's there because we're always around, or you know, or together. I class a lot of fighters as my friends. You know, some fighters you work more closely with than others. Sometimes there's a manager in the middle who don't really want you to get too close to the fighter because that's his job. Right. You know, and if you do get too close to the fighter, it's almost like the manager's job's irrelevant. Do you know what I mean?
And so does that frustrate you? Is that a frustrating
dynamic?
It does,
because I love a pound note, but I love the experiences, and I love trying to achieve a dream almost together. Like when I sat down with AJ in my office for the first time after he won the Olympics, we had a dream for him to win the World Heavyweight Championship. And when you achieve it together, having set out the plan and the strategy, and him obviously doing the important bit, which is delivering, it's a really special moment, you know.
It's a big buzz out of that.
But you can't buy that. You know, you can't buy that. My dad always said to me, if you can get 1% of the adrenaline that a fighter gets when he walks to the ring, you should be a very happy man. Wow. And I feel like sometimes I get 20%. But it's sharing those moments. You know, when Darren Barker won the world middleweight title in Atlantic City, when Kell Brook beat Sean Porter in Los Angeles, when Anthony Crolla won the world title at Manchester, when Tony Bellew won the world title at Goodison Park. Like those moments, I can't even explain. I mean, I can feel the hairs on my neck standing up.
Just thinking about them,
Yeah, and that's because we had those relationships. And the truth is, although our job is nowhere near as tough as the job that they've got, I'm up all hours, right? So if I'm emotionally attached to you, I'm going to go that extra yard. You know, I'm going to stay up till 3, 4 in the morning for the conference calls coming in from the West Coast. You know, I'm going to drive up to somewhere 4 hours away to sign a contract. I'm going to push you with the media. And that's
do impressions in front
exactly,
of the camera,
just to get a few more views.
Yeah,
for
thank you for that.
You know, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that relationship with someone, sometimes it's your job, but you don't always feel obligated to go the extra mile. It's only like having a job and being in a workplace. If you enjoy what you do, if you actually wake up every morning and want to go there, and you've got that attachment to that business, you go. You know, I think sometimes it's the hardest thing as a business owner. To motivate your team of people is the most important thing, because otherwise, how many people go to work? They don't want to be there. And how can you perform at a decent level
if you don't want to be there in the
first
first
place? Exactly. And probably 90% of people who go to work don't want to be there. So to create that environment is the same as working for a client, like Anthony Joshua is my client.
Yeah.
You know, I work for him. He's my boss. That's how I see it. But he's also my friend. But that spills over to the fact that when you're watching them in the fight, you know, when he lost to Ruiz, I was gutted for weeks, you know, and I felt like we all got on with it.
Shocked as well.
But we know shocked, but we know anything can happen in boxing, especially in the heavyweight division. But for weeks, you know, you go to the press conference the next day and you've got to be, hey everybody, but deep down you're gutted for him, you know, and now it's about building towards a rematch. So yes, he is my friend.
You mentioned the rematch there. How is it going for Anthony Joshua? The build up to it. It's a huge fight for Anthony Joshua.
It's a huge fight for boxing. I mean, it's the biggest fight of the year, maybe one of the biggest heavyweight fights of all time.
Of all time?
It is, because when you look at, we got a lot of stick for Saudi Arabia, but again, you can't just pretend that New York and Cardiff are the only two cities in the world where you can stage boxing. This is an invasion from the Middle East to start staging mega fights. I mean, you just saw them do the WWE with Tyson Fury last week. So this is, you know, I guess sometimes a controversial venue decision. So was Thriller in the Manila. You know, so was the Rumble in the Jungle. Yeah. And this is a similar ilk. You'll see the whole world will stop and watch this fight. He's in great shape. He's focusing very hard. Training's going great. He's got some great sparring partners. But it's going to come down to the night, as it always does in this sport. You can have a great 12-week camp and you can feel $1 million. If it doesn't work out for you, or you know you don't deliver under the lights, it's over. And that's the great thing about boxing, I feel like, because it's not like a game of football where you know you can go out and you've got your teammates, and if you play bad, you've got Tuesday night. This is it. So you work for 12 weeks for 36 minutes. You know, he's worked his whole life to try and achieve and become world heavyweight champion, and that was all taken away from him on June the 1st. December 7, he's got a chance to get it all back and actually make himself probably 5 times bigger than he ever was. Yeah. But it's not really about that. It's about, see, Anthony's a very complex character, a very intelligent man. He wants to win the belts back, but he wants to improve on his performance from the first fight, and he needs to. Right. And he wants to win the fight against Andy Ruiz. He wants to become a 2-time heavyweight world champion. He wants to create a legacy, but he just wants to win. And when you're a competitor like that, Carl Froch was the same. You know, he just is desperate to beat the man in front of him. And one of the problems Anthony had going into the Ruiz fight and going into a lot of fights was all the talk was about the one after. The next fight, Wilder, Fury, when are you going to fight Wilder, when you do this? So when we were on Ruiz fight week, we were doing interviews and people were saying to him, so when you beat Ruiz, are you going to fight Wilder? Yeah. Like there was no regard for Ruiz. And I think subconsciously that probably seeped into him. And when he put him down, he just thought, well, this guy's obviously, you know, I'm going to walk through him like I walk for everyone else. Cop one on the side of the head, and then the fight changed. So this time he's got to box smart. I don't think it's just a case of, you know, out jabbing him and moving around the ring. He's going to be under pressure a lot in the fight. So he's got to use his attributes, which is he's a man mountain. He's electrically fast himself and punches very hard, but he's got to be smart. And you know, it's going to be one of the most dramatic nights we've ever seen. And going back to the friendship question, I'm nervous for him. Yeah. You know, because as a friend, because it's a tough sport, mate. You know, it's not, like I said, there's some great sports out there, but there's nothing like this sport. You know, he had to get off the floor, 4 times, 5 times in that Ruiz fight. You know, it was, sometimes it can be humiliating, and you have to go through that. But that's in his head, you know, and he wants to avenge that.
Okay, and you said he is your friend. When we did this exact feature with Anthony Joshua, we asked him about you, and he said, I really respect Eddie and appreciate all he's done for British boxing, and he's a good friend.
Oh, good.
So there you go.
I was waiting for the but.
No but
but I wouldn't class him as a friend. Yeah.
No, he said good friend. Finally, can Eddie Hearn box? Came up on a search term. A lot of people wanting to know, can you box?
I probably think I can.
Right.
I had a couple of fights as an amateur for Billericay Boxing Club.
I read into that,
Yeah, and there's a funny story where my first ever fight was in Dagenham. And
you weren't called Eddie Hearn for that fight, is that right?
No, well, I wanted to be called Eddie Hearn, but I stepped into the ring and they said, well, firstly, what happens is you all weigh in and they basically just pair you up with someone that's the same weight. So I've gone in and they've said, oh, you're fighting that kid over there. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go and talk to him.
You iron him up a little bit.
No, I thought, if I'm nice to him, maybe he won't beat me up. Yeah. So I went over to him, I went, all right, mate? He went, yeah. I went, how many bouts you had? He went, 36. I went, right. He went, what about you? I went, 19. You know. So anyway, went in there and I won, but as I was getting introduced, they said, and in the red corner, from Billericay Boxing Club, Eddie Hills. And I sort of put my hand up and thought, maybe the other geezer's called Eddie Hills. Anyway, so I didn't say anything, I just thought he's obviously got it wrong. Bit of a gutter on my first fight. And the next fight was at Billericay Boxing Club. It was a home fight. Yeah. And this story is even funnier because we weighed in and they showed me the opponent and it was this, like I was tall and skinny back in the day, and this guy was like half my size and rather chubby. Bit of an Andy Reese scenario, right? And I've gone over to my dad and I've gone, Dad, I've got the fat kid in the corner. Anyway, came out, I was absolutely over the moon. Came out like feeling $1 million. Yeah. He's just like crack, crack, crack. And they introduced me as Eddie Hills. So after the fight, I went over to my dad and I said, I can't believe this. Like, what's going on? He said, no, I've told them you've got to be Eddie Hills. I said, why? He said, if they find out you're my son, little silver spoon boy, they're going to smash you everywhere. So I was like, okay. So, and then I started getting beaten up a little bit in the gym and I called it a day because it's just...
That was it?
Yeah, I had one spar and I just remember I had two spells. One where I was like 13, another time when I was 15. And then when I went back at 15, they were putting me in with kids at like 17, 18. Right. And I realised I just weren't good enough at all. And one spar in particular, I still remember it to this day, where he hit me with a left hook and my head guard just went like that and I went back on the ropes and I went, no.
And that was the moment you just thought,
just went,
no more.
Not for me, not for me. But you know, just to finish on that, it is such a great sport for kids. I wish that the government and the local councils would actually put more funding in place for local ABCs, because if you go into an amateur boxing club, you will see kids that would 1,000,000% be in trouble or up to no good if they weren't in that boxing club. Okay. And the kids that are rarely in trouble. It teaches you discipline, respect, obviously fitness. And you ask people like Anthony Joshua where he'd be without boxing. I mean, you know, it just changed his life and it gave him something. Doesn't mean if you go down there, doesn't mean that you have to become a pro fighter. But it just gives you that bit of discipline. It does, and respect. And young kids these days, they need that. You know, these kids that are walking around the street getting in trouble, we talk about knife crime and stuff like that. Put them in a boxing club and it will change their direction in life. And, you know, it's one for another interview.
Yeah, well said. And finally, is this an event we're going to see more of in the future? I know the likes of Gibb versus Jake Paul has been talked about. Do you think we're here in Los Angeles, of course, for KSI Logan Paul? Are we going to see more YouTube events going forward?
Do you know what? I think going into this fight, I said no. But I can't. I mean, the site, it's so big, and the issue is that the broadcasters are loving it. You know, not just Sky, but the Zone, and you know all our other broadcasters from around the world. And if I don't do it, someone's going to do it. So I have to see when I sit there on Saturday night. You know, everything will unfold on Saturday, and then Sunday we'll look at it and say, if it's a great fight. I mean, you got Justin Bieber. You know, tweeting out to 120 million people. He's coming on Saturday saying Logan Paul by early knockout. I mean, if KSI knocks out Logan Paul, does he fight Justin Bieber? I mean,
is that
how
exclusive?
Big is that?
Can we do that?
Do it. Say it. Justin Bieber, I know you're a big Sky Sports fan. Yeah. If you're watching. I mean, but how big is that? I mean, but again, it's got to be good. These guys can fight. The first fight was entertaining. Yeah. It wasn't like two blokes who couldn't fight. So we just got to get the mix right. But at the same time, it only works for me if the people watching fall in love with the sport. Understood, They won't all do it. If we can get 10%, 15%, then it's massive for the sport of boxing. But we can't ignore the size and the drama and the interest and the hype that these guys are bringing to the sport.
Eddie, love that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.